key with our visit to Germany was the level of choice that individual young people had and the flexibility of the route that they could take to move in and out of vocational and academic. And it didn't matter whether it was vocational, whether they were an apprentice or not, or whether they took the more traditional academic route. It was all highly valued. And that has stayed with me, that valuing, not a two-tier system, but equally valued. And I think that's something we should aim for.
I would absolutely agree with the sentiment of that. I think equal value and the flexibility between the two paths, if you like, is hugely important. That's why the observation I made about T-levels carrying with the same weight of UCAS points. So if an individual wants to take a T-level as a more vocational route and then, for example, go on to university, that pathway should be open and available to them.
I mean, I think one aspect of the T-levels when they were originally announced by the Sainsbury panel that we'd strongly welcomed was that there seemed to be an emphasis on actually that people could transition between T-levels and the academic system. I'm not sure whether that's been lost a little bit in the years since it was originally announced. And I think that is something you see that is a feature of vocational academic systems in other countries, that young people can be doing the technical education route but then can actually take a decision to then sort of track over to the school route that takes them into university. So I do think that's something that the T-level approach.
The commitment of business as well in Germany, going back to the guilds, it's historical, which we had and seem to have lost.
Well, I think we saw a decline in our apprenticeship system from the 1970s to the 1990s, and government, in the mid-1990s, there was a kind of a decision to try and revitalise that route. I think one of the challenges we have compared with some of these other countries is that sort of we still do have a lot of poor quality apprenticeships in parts of the economy. I think poor quality. Yeah. And I think, I welcome the recommendations that this committee has made around sort of addressing that. But until we crack that, I think sort of the attitudes of young people, and in particular parents, have been influenced, I think, by the legacy of the last, of the experience we've seen of sort of some low-quality apprenticeships. And I think it's important that we actually sort of accelerate that sort of addressing, that we actually clear out low-quality apprenticeships. And moving to a system like the German system where they are of a very high status, I think is a longer-term ambition.